Our call to order is to give honor to God, our creator, our provider, and our redeemer. We love the Lord God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our strength. And we love our neighbors as ourselves as we give honor to our Supreme Mother, Mildred Miller, Supreme Mother Aretha, Aletha Rovina Drake, Davis Drake, to His Holiness of Blessed Memory, Master Malvin Davis, to our Supreme Father Marshall Davis, Sr., to our boards at large, and to this congregation, and those who will be with us now and will be joining us later, and the listening to us in the future. We greet you with Hotep, peace abide, shalom. So for our first, we will have our reading of our scripture. I'm going to mute all. And remember, with our new system, to be able to speak later, you need to unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, that's done by doing *6. If you're on a computer, it'll have a message down. If you take your cursor down to the bottom of the screen, you will see a button to be able to unmute yourself. But here beginneth the 72nd Psalm. After I put my glasses on. Endow the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. May he judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. May the mountains bring prosperity to the people, and the hills the fruit of righteousness. May he defend the afflicted among the people, and save the children of the needy. May he crush the oppressor. May he endure as long as the sun. Sorry, this is my phone. I can't seem to go back to the third verse. May the mountains bring prosperity to the people, the hills of the fruit of righteousness. May he defend the afflicted among the people, and save the children of the needy. May he crush the oppressor. May he endure as long as the sun, as long as the moon, through all generations. May he be like rain falling in the morn field, like showers watering the earth. In his days may the righteous flourish, and prosperity abound till the moon is no more. May he rule from sea to sea, and from the river to the end of the earth. May the desert tribes bow before him. May the desert crowds be before him, and his enemy lick the dust. May the kings of Tarshish and of distant shores bring tribute to him. May the king of Sheba and Seba present him gifts. May all kings bow before him, and all nations serve him. For he will deliver the needy when they cry out, the afflicted who have no more help. He will take pity on the weak and the needy, and save the needy from death. He will rescue them from pestilence and violence, and precious in the blood in his sight. Long may he live, may gold from Sheba be given him. May people ever pray for him, and bless him all day long. May grain abound throughout the land, on the tops of the hills may it sway. May the crops flourish like Lebanon, and thrive like the grass of the field. May his name endure forever, may it continue as long as the sun. Then all nations will be blessed through him, and they will call him blessed. Praise be to the Lord God, the God of Israel, who alone does marvelous deeds. Praise be to his glorious name forever. May the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen. Amen. This concludes the prayers of David, son of Jesse. Now for our prayer, I'd like you to repeat it together with me. It's the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Now for our song, we're going to have someone to sing, a video of a song, Walk in the Light. You are welcome to join in with the singer. Here begins. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that song that we had. Walk in the light, that beautiful light. And now for our meditations. I'd like you to repeat after me. I call this meditations, I spread joy with my words of wisdom. Again, you are muted, but I'd like you to repeat after me as we go through this meditation or affirmation for this morning. Here beginneth. O Most High God, let me dwell in your secret place. Let me spread joy, the words of wisdom, wherever I may go. Teach me to see you in all that I meet. By working together, we shall make this world a better place. Amen, amen, amen. Now that ends our devotion part. As I said, for those who can see the screen, there is an African Adinkra symbol that is called B Kna B. B Kna B. And it says, no one should bite another. No one should bite another. So it's a symbol of justice, fair play, freedom, peace, forgiveness, unity, harmony, and the avoidance of conflict or strife. And it's kind of, to me, goes along with our commandment of saying, don't be so quick to complain against the other person. Look at how you can use justice to help make the world a better place. Because that's kind of what our top's going to be. How you can make justice a better place. And I'm going to be using a thing that I wrote about the ninth tenet. This is the ninth tenet. And the full tenet that came from us, from our Holiness Supreme Mother Miller, is complain not against another for anything that happens. And as we'll see later, it's related to the sign of Sagittarius, which we're in that sign of Sagittarius now. So it's saying under that Sagittarius spirit that we should complain not against another for anything that happens. And as we're going to explain it, I think you'll see that it's telling you not to not judge things or not have justice and judgment and that spirit of correction in your life, but it's telling us don't be so quick to just look and direct it towards other people. And as Jesus said, learn how to use that spirit of justice to look at your own life. But here's the piece that I wrote about it. It said events occur in our lives to help us recognize the truth and to help our souls develop. Life is a dynamic interaction of activities. Yet, no matter how vast every encounter is, they are especially related to each individual involved. Now, what it's saying there, things that happen to his life, that there is still a special connection on what person comes and get involved in your life with everything that happens. So we have to recognize that there's a lot of an interaction in life, and that it has purpose. All of that has purpose, the people that we encounter, but we encounter them and they have purpose as our teachers. To go on, it says, recognizing our capacity to influence and be edified by life experiences is the great benefit to our soul. So recognizing that these things that happen to us for the benefit of our soul will help us change our outlook on life and not getting so quick to try to just define things by the other person. Because it goes on to say, complaining more often than not blocks our realization of the true beauty of life experiences. And I'm going to read that again. It says, complaining more often than not blocks our realization of the true beauty of life experiences. And this is when you're complaining about the other person, that starts to block you from looking at what life is trying to teach you and the beauty of the things that happen in life. The article goes on to say, from the ninth tenet of Her Holiness of Blessed Memory, Mildred Davis Miller, we learn that complaining distorts our vision of the truth and the part others play in revealing it to us. So it's saying that when we complain, we actually get to distort our vision of the truth. We start thinking that the truth is something that's manifesting in us, and we actually use the other person as an excuse not to direct the lessons at life at ourselves. Now, the person may be learning a lesson in life themselves, but we should be more focused on the lessons that is being presented to us. And by just complaining about the other person, many times we forget to learn what we need to learn from that lesson in life, because we kind of like dismiss it. We kind of like said, oh no, this is something for their benefit, not my benefit. And your life experiences are there for your own benefit. The article goes on to say, as our imagination is a major factor in our ability to direct and foretell the course of our lives. And this is another point, that our imagination is a major factor in our ability to direct and foretell the course of your life. Our imagination helps us sort out the many sensations that we perceive, select the significant relationships and events, and predict the most likely outcome from our encounters. So it's saying the imagination helps us do all those things. That is a major factor in us being able to see what life is trying to do for us. So it helps us to perceive how these sensations are working. It's help us to find out what is significant in our relationships and events around us. And it helps us predict the future and the outcome of our encounters. So our imaginations are doing all those things. Then it goes on, the article goes on to say, unfortunately, our imagination is also adept at developing notions of doom. So it's saying that you can get your imaginations to start developing these notions of doom, where it can help you to find answers in life. And that's what we're really there for, is help us to find the answers in life, help us to find solutions to our problems, help us to find the way to make a way when there doesn't seem to be a way. Our imagination is there to help us do that. But you can direct your imagination in such a way that it only seems doom. So through the power of imagination, we have the ability to glean from the past, to inspire the present, and to predict the future. So saying those the three powers that our imagination has for it. You can glean from the past. That means you can look back on the things of the past and take out the good things about that. It's sort of like you're harvesting from the knowledge of the things that you experienced in the past. It can actually help to inspire you in the present. You can use your imagination to lock onto those things in the present that can give you the ability to make it in life, and it can help us predict the future. It can help us through our imagination and say, well, where's the future going to be? I always like the thing that we are going to be like God one day. So our future to us should always, when we're predicting our future, we should always say, where does God want us to be in the future? You have to look in that far future and saying, God wants us to be divine beings in the future. So we must always use our imagination in saying, is the path I'm on now in life, this is my pathway to being a divine being. This is my pathway in life to being holy. This is my pathway in life to be what God wants me to be. But then the article says that's the good news. So those are the good things that our imagination can do for us when we're living our life. It can help us to find the best things of the past to help to lead us to a better future. It can help inspire us in our daily life. So in the present, we can find that joy and happiness of just being alive. And it can help us predict the future and predict that future based on the wisdom and knowledge that we receive from God. That's the good part, because the article then says that's the good news. On the flip side, imagination can cause us to regret the past, to mourn the present, and to pervert the future. So it's saying that same power that imagination has to lift us up and to make us see, get the best from the past, to get look for the best here in the present, look for counting those blessings that you see in your life now, and causing you to get a goal or a viewpoint of how you're being prepared for greatness. On the flip side, your imagination can cause you to just look back on everything you'd had in the past and just regret, just be a whole fault, just keep rolling and rolling over all the regrets you have about life. It can help you to actually to mourn about the present, that the things that you see happening in your life right now, it can make you say, oh, I'm so sorry where I am now. But you're in a good place. Wherever you are, you're in a good place to have a great life because you're walking with God. Like it says, you're walking in that light, like the song says. And if you're walking in that light will help to lead you to the good place that you're going to be. So with that, good imagination can cause you those problems, to make you mourn where you are in the present, and it can pervert your future because you can think, oh, this is going to last forever. And the great old adage is, this too shall pass away. This too shall pass away. Now, one of the greatest deals I think that God has given us is that, in my view, God has made us out of divine beings. He's made us out of a spirit that has the opportunity for everlasting life. But in preparing us for that everlasting life, He's put us in a temporary existence that help us to show the joys and the true nature of life. But one thing we often forget is this is temporary. The lives that we're living in now, the bodies that we're in now, they're blessed bodies. It's a blessed earth as God has given us. But this is the temporary. God has made us as the internal spirit that is within us that can last forever, that has that power to live on throughout eternity, but has given us the opportunity to show the greatness of what he's given us by allowing us to be in these temporary vessels, in this temporary world around us that will pass away. So we have to look at our life and say that this is a great opportunity he's giving us to be able to give us an understanding of the true beauty of life, but he's doing it in something that is totally temporary. So when we look at these things and say, oh, how horrible this is, you often have to remind yourself, no matter how horrible it is, it's temporary. And even yes, also that means that no matter how great it is, it's temporary. We have not seen yet the greatness of God. We've not seen how wonderful God can be because we're still living in the temporary ness of the world that we're in now. But we believe that there is an eternalness within us, an eternal God that is for us, that is the one that is the most important part. So we don't want to pervert what our future is, because we should always think our future is eternal. Our future lasts forever. Our future is not the temporary things that we see now. And there's another. We're going to go further, but I'm going to pause for a minute to give some others a chance to speak. But the last line on this page said, "It all depends on the mental pictures we allow our minds to feed our souls." So whether you take that good side of how your imagination can be used, or take that lower flip side of what your imagination can do, it actually helps to feed your soul. It helps to feed that internal part of you, eternal part of you, to be able to make life wonderful. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and we do have more to read in this article, but I want to see if there are others who would like to have something to say at this point in the lesson. And remember that the way the system works now, if you would like to speak, you need to unmute yourself. And once you unmute yourself, then you will be able to speak. So I don't see anyone unmuting themselves. And just let me say, for those who are on the phone, the way to unmute yourself is that *6. And if you're on a computer, it is to touch go down to the bottom of the screen, and it usually pops up some bubbles that you can use, and one of them will let you unmute yourself. But if there are no one, if you want to, we can keep going on to our next part of this lesson.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, I
Hi.
was trying to get through. I just wanted to say that when you were talking about people complaining, it's like those people who like to complain, they always like to put whatever they're going through on somebody else's
Yeah.
fault, like it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, and nobody likes to hear a person always um every time you turn around, they are complaining about the situation that they're in. That kind of turns people off.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't help the person that's complaining, and it doesn't help the people who they complaining to, who could probably, if they felt that could give them some advice, would probably give them some advice, But because you always complaining and you don't ever want to take responsibility for
Mm-hmm.
nothing, then they shut you off.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like you don't want no help because you always are complaining. You just want somebody to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And people get tired of that.
Yes. We just call it a pity party.
Yeah, I've had many a co-worker that we used to look at. It would be like, oh, here they go again.
Mm-hmm.
So, complaining does not help the situation on either side to me,
Mm-hmm.
because the person who could probably give you some help is turned off, and you aren't getting any help because you always complain.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, like you said at the beginning, when people are complaining, they're usually complaining about the other person. And that's what they're saying. Don't direct your judgment at the other person. Try to see what things you can do to help. Because in life, you're supposed to be trying to correct. Uh, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but when we're talking about working with the sign of Sagittarius, and the angel that we associate with it, which is um, Zachiel, that is the angel of justice and righteousness. And when we were looking at the 72nd Psalm, we heard in that how Solomon was talking about you wanted the king to have righteousness, you wanted them to have justice. And to do that, you do have to make some discernment or discrimination about what's happening to you in life. But as it was talking about he was the king talking, but talking about how he wanted the king to have this. And to me, that was saying he wanted to use his judgment to look at his job as king and what he should be doing, how he should be applying justice to what he was doing, and not putting the blame on someone else. And when you're talking about those people that are complaining and pity parties, you mentioned that a lot of times they're going to complain about someone else. They're going to make it seem like it's the other person that's the problem, the other person that's causing the problem, and it's their fault in such a way of saying, therefore, I can't do anything about it because that person is at fault. And that's not how you should be using your ability to discern or judge things in life. You should be looking at where is there a possibility for correction? Because the word, even though we often translate the word Zadok as justice, the true meaning of it is vindication or correction. Or the better translation of it would be vindication and correction. So when it tells you when it talks about justice or it talks about judgment, in the deeper sense, what it's talking about is talking about correction and it's talking about vindication. How do you vindicate things? How do you make them better? And so we should be using our power of our imagination and the power of our judgment is how we can make it better. Even our conversations. How, when we have a conversation, are we saying, how do we make this better? How do we get it back to a balanced and righteous place? Teresa, thank you for sharing that. Do you have more to share? Think Deacon Jackson wants to speak.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just speak on my behalf for what I go through. I just always figure God give us a ram in the bush, and that ram in the bush is Him. You know, you got a positive and you got a negative thought, but I always try to enlighten on the positive.
Yes.
So I start my day off every morning with prayer. I start my day off thanking God, and I start my day off to let God know it is such a wonderful thing for Him to allow me to still yet be alive. And through these things here, when things do come my way, I really don't too much pay attention to it because I'm always in that positive. I was speaking to you this morning. You know, I take the term of not so much worrying about what I'm going through, but what can I do today, God, to be a blessing to someone else? What can I do, or what position would you have put me in that I might be able to smile or say something to somebody else to let them know that things is not what they seem. It's always a better situation. It's always a better solution. And that better solution and better situation is always to just think positive. Look at the things that God is doing right now in your life, you know, to be able to get up and knowing that you can walk in the kitchen and make you breakfast and to have a couch to sit on and to be able to breathe, to take a shower. These things that we have since yet taken for granted, but these things that you cannot take for granted because these are blessings. Because everyone else, you would think they may have these things, but they don't have these things at their beck and hand. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, yeah. You know, we all go through things, and the Bible don't speak of it being easy. What the Bible speaks of is having faith, and that God will give you a future and a hope. So you got to know that your future is in a right now state, a right now moment. You know, Saturday is gone. Today is Sunday, and Monday is not promised. So whatever comes my way, and no matter how bad it seems, I go throughout this Sunday just thinking positive. And if God allowed me to wake up Monday, I start over again thinking positive. And I don't think on the nigga. I just let God know that I'm still trusting. I'm still dependent on you. I'm still going to lean on you. I'm going to give you back your word. And I trust that you're going to put somebody in that position to come forth, whether they inspire me, give me an inspiring word, or just let me hear something that will continue to give me strength that I may know that this may soon pass too. And that's the way that I look at things in life, because everything gonna come at you. The adversary is always trying to get into your mindset. But you can't let nothing get up into your mindset. It can get there, but you can't let it take root. In other words, when it get there, you see it and you say, okay, I'm going to take the pause. I'm going to start thanking God for it because I know it's light at the end of that tunnel. I know something's going to happen. You know, me, you was laughing, and, you know, the scripture tells us 1,000 days to us is only a day to God. But when you break it down, 1,000 days is 3 years, you know. So, you know, once you get to that 3-year period, whatever you're going through, then God said, okay, that's a day. You know, but he took 6 days to create the world. He rested on 7. But, you know, I truly think that, you know, in spite of all, God has been mighty good to me. You know, he's been good to my family. He's been good to my church family, because we are on the service this morning. We speaking positive. We're not speaking no negative. Ain't nothing came to upset my lifespan, you know, my trio of life. I didn't get phone calls, no knock on the doors. I'm up breathing. And, you know, that's just my philosophy. And I think that philosophy will work for a lot of people. We just allow ourselves to stay in his word and know that God has spoken. And when God has spoken, that seals it. So I just wanted to put that in.
No, thank you. Yeah, because we we believe in looking at life and saying what life, because like you said, life is not always easy. There are problems or things that we need to correct in life, but complaining about somebody else is not going to help you solve then your problems. Like Saint Teresa was saying, that when you see you're supposed to see that there are things for you to correct, but you don't have to always say it's someone else. To me, it's like I always talk about, if you walk in somewhere and you see some paper that's on the ground or something that's on the ground, do you just say, oh, that's somebody else's job? What's the matter with the janitor in this place that he would let some paper down there? But you walk by it yourself, when you could have just as easily did what? Pick the paper up and put it in the trash. And that's what we sometimes do in life. We'll go and we'll complain so hard about who could have, should have, would have done something about it, and not look for the opportunity that you had for that correction. That's why I say with that word of Zadok, that is often converted as righteousness or justice, that a deeper meaning of it is correction and vindication. How are you trying to correct the things around you? And when you're correcting things around you, you will see things that are out of sort. You will see things that are wrong. But don't always be so quick to say, oh, that's somebody else's fault. That is somebody else's problem. Start looking at life and saying, I am going, because God has given me the tools to face the problems in life. So the ones that I can do something about, and there will be some things that you can't do anything about, and you just have to say, well, I'll, let go. Because if you walked out and you saw some radioactive waste on the floor, you wouldn't say, oh, let me go and do it. No, you say, I need to back up away from this because I see that's a radioactive waste. And I need to let the best I can do is let somebody know who knows how to handle it or is equipped to handle it to do with it. So yes, some of the things you'll see in life, you'll see them and it'll be like not just a piece of paper on the floor, but it'll be like a radioactive waste on the floor. And with those, you you get away from them and stay away from those things, but always be looking at what can I do to do the best in the situation. Anyone else have any thoughts before we go on? Because like I said, the biggest thing is trying to make sure that we're using our power of justice, using our power of correction, using the power of our imagination in the best way possible, and not losing the beauty of that power by just trying to, because a lot of times when you're complaining, you're just sidestepping it. You're just trying to, oh, this is the other person's problem. I shouldn't do anything about it. Even sometimes, if it's all you can do about it is pray for the person to get the best. So as the article continues, it says, it says complaining about others forces our imagination to create mental images of gloom, remorse, hopelessness, resentment, and regret. Now, again, it says complaining about others forces our imagination, because we talked earlier about the imagination, but it forces your imagination to create these bad images of gloom, remorse, hopelessness, resentment, and regret. Goes on to say, complaining about others is an unfortunate use of a wonderful power. So it's saying that when you're complaining about others, often you get these images of this gloom, of this remorse, of this hopelessness, of resentment and regret that you're building up within your own spirit because you're complaining about the other. And that's not what you want your imagination to do. It says, note that I underline or emphasize complaining about others in saying that. I did this to distinguish it from looking for situations that need correcting. So it's saying complaining and looking for situations that need correcting are two different things. So we do want to be able to look for and be aware of the things that need correcting. We don't want to be walking around like Pollyanna, where everything we just make everything look rose colored or everything looks beautiful. No, to really live your life, you have to be able to see things that are going wrong. But complaining about it from the standpoint of someone else has control of it, has then made you lose sight of your ability to control things. So the article goes on to say, when we say don't complain about others, we do not mean to look at the world through rose-colored glasses. There are circumstances that require our intervention, or they will go uncorrected. So there's things around you that require you to intervene in them, or they will always go uncorrected. These circumstances are like the speck or beam in the eye. And it says both. It's the speck. A lot of times you will go and see a speck in another person's eye or a beam in your own eye. And it says, see Matthew 7:3. And to me, this passage always, when you think about it scientifically, if you ever had something in your eye in your own eye, it's like having a beam in your eye. But when you look at the other person, that same size thing in the other person, it's just a speck. So to me, it was always very interesting because when we're saying the beam in your eye, when something is in your own eye, it becomes like a beam. It can block your vision. But when that same size something is in somebody else's eye, to you, it is just a speck. It's a small thing. So to me, this always saying is, it doesn't say that that person doesn't have a something in their eye, but what you should be more concerned with is those specks, those things that are not correct, that are actually blocking you, not what's blocking the other person's sight, but what is blocking your sight. So that's what I was talking about here, that there these circumstances, that there are circumstances that need correcting, but you need to think of how can I correct them for myself first, so that I can then even help someone else that has some type of speck in their eye, or something in their eye that I can help them with. Now, the article goes on to another story from my life. It says, for example, one firm I worked for developed a company-wide quality improvement process that used the team approach to solving problems. That means that its whole approach to solving problems in there was to set up these teams to work on these problems. And one of the basic rules given to teams was that you can criticize processes, but not people. Now, these were quality improvement teams, and they got these ideas from Japanese use of quality improvement techniques that were actually developed in America. It was kind of crazy. There was a American professor who developed some quality improvement tools and processes and steps, and he could never get them to be accepted in America. And people in Japan got those tools and they started using them. And that's how Japan changed their economy and started improving and became a world power, or powerful industries that it developed was using these quality improvement techniques that were developed by this American scholar. And one of the things they said, that when you get these teams to work on a problem, get them not to do their problems of complaining or looking at teams. It says the basic rule was you criticize processes, but not people. We kind of have a saying that we're saying is don't blame the player, blame the game. And that's what they would have you kind of looking into this, that you would look at what was wrong with the process. Because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just complain about the individual and say that because it is going wrong, that individual must be the one that's doing that. Now, the article goes on and said, criticizing or complaining about individuals generally leads to an endless personality squabbles. So when you're just complaining about individuals, you would just go to this individual personality squabbles. Because just like when Jesus was saying, if you try to just look at the speck in the other person's eye, and all you're going to talk about is the speck in their eye, then probably all they're going to be talking about is the thing that you got in your eye. You're talking about the thing that they got in the eye. They're talking about the thing that you got in your eye. So you just be squabbling back and forth, and nobody's saying, you know, something, we need to find someone that knows how we can get these things out of our eyes. So it's saying when you're just looking at individuals as the problem, you end up not actually getting to the problem. It says by focusing on correcting processes, not people, the quality team could develop procedures to improve the workplace. So you want to see, how do you change the procedures? Now, another very important part of not just complaining about the individual and not look at the whole process as the problem is you might end up getting rid of the person thinking that the problem is going to go away. And I'm going to say it again slowly because I think it's very important. If you just think about the person as the problem, you may get rid of that person and find out that the problem is still there. You say, oh, I got rid of that person. And so the next time I come to this situation, there's not going to be a problem. Well, you never really got to the root cause of the problem. You just got rid of a person who was in that position or around when that problem was happening. But you have not actually solved the actual problem. And because you got rid of that person, because you could have been successful of getting that person out, like we've been successful of getting a certain person out of a position of leadership. But does that mean that the problems have gone? There are still things that we need to do what? To deal with the problem. So we can't just say, oh, just getting rid of the person actually solves the problem. You have to look at what's the process. Many times people who are problems, they're just a symptom of something else that is terribly wrong. And once you get rid of them, the thing is still terribly wrong. So you'll end up going right back into it. So when saying complain not against another for anything that happened, look at it's saying that just complaining about that other person may make you miss actually solving the real problem. And too often when we have that situation and we get rid of the person, then we sit back and say, the problem is gone. No, the problem has not gone. You just got rid of one of the agents of that problem when there are so many others who can become an agent of that problem. Even you could become that agent, because when you might take over that position and find when you get in that position that you're faced with the same types of considerations that that person have, and you start doing things that are wrong in that position. So instead of looking at that other, complaining against that other person, already you should have been starting to look at what is wrong with this situation, what is wrong with this process, and let us improve the process, and we can go on from there.
I had a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. That just brought to mind that something that Carrie Ann, the girl that's on the talk, she was that could also like work in relationships too, because she kept saying that she kept getting these guys kept she kept getting these boyfriends that would do something that she didn't like, and she just was getting rid of boyfriends, getting rid of boyfriends, getting rid of boyfriends. And then after she had gotten rid of some guys, and she really started, just decided she was gonna work on herself. And she said, come to find out, when she's working on herself, come to find out, she realized she was the problem.
Yes.
So you can get rid of people and get rid of people and get rid of people, like in relationships. But a lot of time, well, not a lot of time.
No,
Sometimes
it's a lot
you
of times.
are the actual problem.
No, it's not a lot of times. Most of the time,
Oh,
you
you
are the
are
problem.
the actual problem.
You are the actual problem,
Right.
not the person.
Yeah.
So you get rid of the person, and that's what I said, because you don't solve the problem, because you just think it's so easy to complain about what the other person is doing and not change anything about yourself. And when you don't change anything about yourself, you're almost, like you said, you will end up with that same type of person. You'll keep wondering, why do I keep getting this same type of person? And it's usually because you haven't changed the real problem. And the real problem was what? You. Even if you're picking the wrong type of person, you need to find out what's wrong with you that you keep seeing something in this wrong type of thing. So it's not the person. The person is who they're supposed to be, but it's you that keep picking that wrong type of person. And if you just get rid of that person and you don't solve that problem within you that makes you keep going after that, Why do you think the situation is going to change? The best changes you can make is changing that beam in your own eye. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions on it? Comments? But it's so important to know that many times when you think, especially when you keep having that same problem in every relationship you have, you need to start thinking about, what am I doing wrong? What can I change about me that I start? Because we even believe that your attitude attracts the type of people to you that are based on your attitude. Remember when earlier we were talking about this gloom, this doom, and this remorse, and hopelessness? If you live your life and you keep having all these images of gloom, remorse, and hopelessness, and regret and resentment, what type of people do you think that you're going to attract to you? You're going to attract them same type of gloom, remorse, resentful, hopeless people. They're going to be attracted to you. So unless you start changing your outlook on life, don't expect you are going to start attracting those happy, joyous people when you are always full of gloom, remorse, and hopelessness. Anyone else had some some thoughts that they want to bring? But it's so important when we're looking at things in life, we start looking at what's the processes. Because I used to always wonder with people that they will always go to, and it's probably going to be stepping on some people's toes, but that they would go to nightclubs to meet people. And that was always the strangest things to me, is why do people go to nightclubs to meet someone that they think is going to be a great partner for them in life? And because you're going to a place where people are going there to get drunk, to get wild, to do crazy and stupid things. But then you're going to take them home and say, oh, but when they get home, or when I get home with this person, then they're going to become this great, wonderful, nice person, that is going to treat me right. That I'm going to get this person and find them in a nightclub, but then they're not going to want to go out to nightclubs anymore, or they're going to, and it's not saying that you can't meet a great person in a nightclub, but to me, uh, you should not be going there and looking for that. Because the problem when you go to the nightclubs, you go there with the partying attitude, and you're going to find a person with a what? The same type of attitude that you go there with. And you have to go, if you go to the nightclub, you have to even go to the nightclub with this idea that I am a decent, respectable person. And I hope that somewhere in this nightclub, there's another decent, respectable person that has some goals in life, that knows how to have fun, but actually also knows how to take care of business. And not just saying that I'm just going to find a person and meet someone that knows how to have fun, but don't you really want somebody who knows how to want to take care of some of the business in life also, who wants to be able to take care of their homes and things? It was funny, but there was one time they were talking about dating, and one of the people says that uh, one of the best places to go, or a good place to go and find people. Well, who can some of the places you think that this person would say was a good place to go and find people? And let me take one off the top of from the person, not the church. The person, this not wasn't the church. The person is saying that, oh, you should go to church to find people, because sometimes um, that wasn't just off. But I'm going to tell you, because maybe you haven't forgotten. But this person said that one of the best places you go to
Was it
find
Peter
somebody
Lunchy?
was in the grocery store.
Oh, the grocery
No,
store.
the grocery store. Grocery store. Because if a person's in the grocery store, they're what? They're, first of all, they probably have some source of income. They're um, looking to make good choices and looking to make financial decisions. And so it was talking about the grocery store as a place to go and find to meet people. Yeah, of course, at the grocery store, you're not always going to find single people, but you should sometimes look for the type of, if you're into health food, keep going to a health food grocery store. And then at least you're knowing that what the person that you are looking at in the grocery store is probably also a person that is into health food. What sections of the person go in the grocery store? What do they have in their basket at the grocery store? Um, and I'm not going to tell people all of a sudden to go out there and start trying to date people in the grocery store. I'm just saying this is from another source. But a lot of times we don't look for the right places to find people for that we want. And so if you meet somebody in the bar, go grocery shopping with them sometime to see what kind of store shopper they are. Find out some more about the person, just not how they could be at a party, but remember to say, look at the processes. And that's what we sometimes forget to do. We just look at the person, we make an evaluation of them, and we don't see how they handle life situations. So, no, you might always go because when you go to a bar, you feel like it's not strange for someone to come up and introduce themselves to you, and because that's what most people think you're there in the bar for. In a grocery store, it may be more intimidating to have to meet someone in the grocery store. But when you meet someone, wouldn't it be great if you could find out how they act in situations, in real life situations, not just take how they act at parties, but how they act at other things in life um, as well. Someone else want to make a comment?
Go to Whole Food.
Go to Whole Foods. Oh, then you know you're going to person that got some money because they call it the whole paycheck.
Go to Whole Food.
But it doesn't just have to be Whole Foods. You can go to join Sam Club because it's the person that's willing to because I think with Sam's Club and those other things, that person has to pay something to be a part of the club.
Yeah.
Um, but and what it's saying is that look at the processes that the people are going through. Because let me make clear, I'm not saying that if you want to go to a nightclub and stuff and meet people, fine, but have your eyes open to actually look at the whole process, not just look at how the person has fun, because is that all you want? Is you just want a party person, or are you looking at the whole processes that people use in their life to be able to deal with them? Don't get into a relationship and be so. We were looking at something, and I forgot what it was. I think it was that thing Teresa had, we were looking at called what was it? That Nicole Kidman in it.
The
Um,
Undoing.
The Undoing. And she was a psychologist. And one of the things that she talked about at the end is many times many of the women that she had talked to that were in abusive relationships, one of the biggest problems was that they were so intent in finding happiness that they would not, and I'm kind of saying it's strange, but they were so intent on trying to find happiness that they were ignoring all the signs that showed that this person was not making me happy. They were just so happy to have a person that they were making all these excuses for things that they actually saw about the person. And as a psychologist, that's what they kind of look for. They look for the fact that you are and so much want to be with somebody, sometime anyone, that you start overlooking the faults of that person to make them who you want them to be, instead of looking at them for who they really are and what they really are. So we need to, like I said, we need that power of of being able to evaluate things, and that evaluation we should be due on how to make correct. But the thing that need to correct them the most in life is, how do you correct yourself? How do you correct you from stop looking through things at these rose closet glasses? That you stop looking at things and you're so much want to make them seem right, that you start looking at some of the obvious things, the obvious processes that are not working right. Um, and going back to the nightclub example, you might see a man in a nightclub and he buys drinks for everyone. You say, "Oh, I want to be with him because he's generous." But is that really the person you want to be with? A person that you don't that may not can afford it, and he gets drunk, so he started wasting all his money buying drinks for everybody in there. Why is that person buying drinks for everybody? Think of the process. And not just look, and don't just look at the shoes and the hands and the feet and the other things, but start looking at, how is this person actually solving some of the situations, the processes in their life. Um, because cause now I'm going beyond complaining, but it's also saying that look at the processes, look at the things that that person is involved in, and how they handle things in life, and how you handle things in life, to see that as I'm handling things, that I want to have the right type of attitude and imagination about me, that I even attract the right people. Uh, that I'm not walking around all gloomy and remorseful and hopeless, because I don't want to attract that type of person around me. Go there with this attitude that I am a resourceful person, and this is whether you're in the grocery store or the nightclub, but go there with that attitude. I am a resourceful person. I look at life with in truth. I look at the true things in life. I try to find those answers that will make life better for me and others. And then even if you're in a nightclub, you will begin to attract those type of people that have that same attitude. Any other comments? To go on with, I think that's where I am. Says, by concentrating on fixing the process or the situation, we find our lives more productive. Not complaining against others can help our mental images to become more effective. So don't always look for the person that is the problem. If you see a person that is involved in a problem, start going back and saying, what is the real problem? What is the motivation behind this? Um, and once we see what that motivation is that's incorrect, not just how you correct it in that person, but how do you correct that motivation? Because it could be something terribly wrong with the whole motivation behind it. That person may just be a symptom of a motivation, but at some point you have to work at, how do we get rid of that whole process? How do we get that process out of the way? And once we get that process out of the way, it will start making changes. Another thing we were looking at is one of the problems we see a lot in life is racism. And one of the things that we're seeing now is we're seeing with some of the Black Lives Matter movement and some of the other things, we're seeing some changes when other nationalities or ethnic groups are coming out and joining in that chant of Black Lives Matter, which is something that you really didn't see much of before, except in the very early days of what we call the civil rights movement. And it started off with, there were people of all ethnic groups that were involved in the civil rights movement. But one part of that is there starts. I was thinking of are there some things that are different now that are getting some of these other ethnic groups to look at it differently? And one of the things that I know that's been going around is there's a group that goes around and does these workshops that's called Undoing Racism. And these Undoing Racism workshops, they work with a cross sections of ethnic groups, and they talk about the real roots of where racism comes about. It gives them the history of a lot of these racist ideas. Even talks about when um, the white ethnic group came up with this idea of white people and made this thing about white people against black people, rather than before that, the big thing was the rich against the poor. And they, because of when they, and this was during the days, this is like in the 14th, 15th century, when they came up with these ideas that they, after they were making black people the major indentured servants, that they needed to get the white class of people kind of behind these rich people, and they came up with this idea of being a white person and having certain privileges. So it actually, when you're in these workshops, they show you a history of when this idea of race started. They show you a history of all of the scientific studies that have been done to show that there is a difference between the races and have failed.
Important message for all of you, especially if you live in a country that is right now facing the new coronavirus. The pandemic is growing exponentially.
Somebody's phone. So it goes through all of these lessons and talking about them, showing the history behind when this idea of the white race started. It shows them the history behind all the studies they've done on race to show that genetically we're not different races. It goes on the history of how black people have been systematically targeted for to keep them down, to maintain, to not to maintain, but to make the system seem like it's telling the truth about their being different. It has villainized them and made them criminals with unjust laws. It goes through all of that, the statistics behind it. And actually, when it's during the workshop, they have them get into groups and actually do the research, that they get on their cell phones and on computers and go and look that the research is right out there. Would you give them the right things to look at if you give them the legal status of when they started making this idea of white people and tell them, oh, go ahead and research this and see what it says. Or when you have them to go and look at how they tried to make this idea about the difference of the races, they're saying, go and look at the research. So they actually go and research those things. And at the end of it, in most cities, they end up with a group of even a white group that gets committed to actually trying to help white people see the truth. And the reason I mentioned that is because there's a video out on the web of this young white girl who is arguing with her parents about Black Lives Matter. And there's a girl, she's doing like a selfie, and she's explaining to them that how what is being done to Black people is wrong. But when you look at all the arguments she's giving, they're almost the same arguments that this group of Undoing Racism is giving, and that are spreading between both blacks and white people, because I said they blame both ethnic groups. But you can see that, to me, and one of the things that they do like to do is bring it to young people, bring it to high school kids and stuff, that I'm almost sure that this girl must have gone through one of those Undoing Racism workshops, because of the argument she can give back to her parents about how the things they're telling her, because the parents are trying to tell them, oh no, look at the statistics, and it will show you that there's more crime in the Black neighborhood. And she started giving those answers to that to show them, one, why the Black people are, the statistics really show that Black peoples are being targeted heavier than white people, not that the Black people actually do more crimes. And the crimes that the Black people are in there are not at the same, black people are getting more time to be in prison for things that a white person does it, and they give them a little slap on the wrist. The black people does it, and they end up with 15 years to life or something. And the girl is giving all these answers back based on some of the things that they've been done in this undoing racism workshops. It makes me wonder how many of those whites that are out there doing that have not gone and seen the truth. Because to me, the thing that the undoing racism workshops are doing is actually just presenting the truth. And which we don't teach our children. We teach our children these theories and not saying, no, look at the truth. Go and find out, is there actually a difference between the races? We just tell them, say, oh, no, the races are different. And they're different because we're treated differently. And not actually saying, do you know why they even came up with this concept of breaking up the people into whites and blacks? Have you actually looked at the statistics in a way that shows you that the statistics are being twisted to make it seem like black people are more criminally minded than white people? Or sometimes we are talking about black on black crime. Most statistics show that most crimes happen to people within a certain radius of their home. And if you're in a certain radius of your home, they're only black people, who else are most of the crimes going to be against, other than those people who live around you? But we'll talk about black on black crime, but have you ever had people talk about, well, what about white on white crime? We try to make it seem like white on white crime is different from black on black crime, and not actually sometimes use that as an excuse on why we're not going to deal with the problem of police brutality because of black on black crime. Now, both of them are problems, but we're saying that we have to solve the problem of black on black crime before we solve the problem of the people who are supposed to be helping with crime also committing crimes. I don't think so. So I think that you have to look at what is the real truth behind the problem. Because a lot of what we're talking about and complaining about another is saying that, how do you get to the real truth, the real root of the problem, and not just think it's the individual that's the problem? Is it actually just if we got rid of that individual policeman who did the crime, would the problem be gone? And I say a lot of times, no, it wouldn't. Another argument I saw is and President Obama brought this out, but he was trying to tell some of the black people that he didn't agree with the idea of defunding the police. That he believed that that was sort of like a slogan that was more problematic, that was going to cause more problems than it was going to solve. And I know on one of the stations that Teresa watched, I forget the names of one, but it's the one that has the lawyer named Sonny, who's a Puerto Rican, and she was trying to explain that she believed that Obama just didn't understand I think I hear my wife yelling at the view, that Obama just didn't understand what was really behind defunding the police, because that just doesn't mean taking funds from the police. It meant all these other things about correcting the system. And listening to her, I actually agreed more with Obama than I agreed with Sonny. And the reason I agreed more with Obama than I agreed with Sonny is because, and this is something that that I learned from reading about John Henry Clark, who is one of the historians. He says many times when we're fighting, we get caught up in a tactic and not a strategy. And we have to look at things and saying that we will get caught up in a tactic and not actually have a strategy behind it. And defunding the police is a tactic. It's a thing that you use. The reason I don't believe it's a strategy is because we're saying we want to defund the police to actually make life better for Black people, to make it black for young Black boys when they go out in the streets, that they won't be subjected to unreasonable searches and unreasonable actions by the police. And what you have to think about as a tactic, and why I say it's a tactic, is, do you really believe that giving police less money is going to lead to less Black people being unjustly treated by police? There's not a straight line. That's just a tactic. That's just something, oh, I'll do this. You know, it's like saying, you know, I do this, but there is no guarantee that the effect that I want to have is going to follow. So it's just a tactic. You really haven't given what is the strategy behind what you're saying. And so we do need to look at what are the strategies behind the concept called defund the police, and start saying, no, we want to fight for some of these strategies. We want to have it so that Black police are not so fearful when they come in the Black community that they're ready to shoot the Black young men. We want to make it so they become a solution in our neighborhoods, not a problem. So, but don't think that the tactic, and saying it, that this is a tactic, don't get the tactic before you get the strategy. Because if you just say, oh, no, we're just going to defund the police and then it's going to solve the problem, is to me just as silly as the Republicans saying, oh, we're going to get rid of Obamacare, which is a tactic, and then we're going to make healthcare better. That's when you put the tactic before the strategy. The strategy has always been to make healthcare better. The tactic that they use is saying, oh, we'll get rid of Obamacare because it has some problems. And so because it has some problems that we actually created in the Obamacare system, we're going to get rid of it as a tactic. And then we're going to make it, no, you need to bring to me what strategies you're going to do to actually improve healthcare. Don't give me tactics. And to me, the tactic of getting rid of Obamacare is just as flawed as the tactic of saying defund the police. And I'm not saying that when you get the strategy that some of that may mean less money to police, or it could mean, you know, because in some situations, I think there are probably police officers who are getting underpaid. So that's why I'm saying just the tactic of saying defund, what's the strategy behind that? You're saying is a direct line between giving the policemen less money and having the safe Black neighborhoods that we're actually fighting for, or having the question is, how is defunding the police going to make it so that these young Black men are going to be safer on the street? How is defunding the police is going to stop the judges from giving them these unreasonable sentences when they go to what's going on? So I'm saying that what we need is strategies, not tactics, because that's another thing they talk about when we were talking about quality improvement. You actually have to define the problem, and before you actually start saying how you're going to fix it. And it's part of the thing. Part of the problem solution is just you get the definition of the problem, and that slogan or tactic of defunding the police does not actually address what it's supposed to do. Because the whole problem is just how much money the police are getting. And I'm not saying that there are things in the police that need to be defunded. And I think that whole tactic of defunding the police actually shows there was one county or one place that actually did that to correct their police department. What they did is they actually took all the funds from it and then re-implemented the police. So it's not saying that it can't be done, but you first need to know what is it you're trying to fix. And what they found with that particular one, that to get that police department straightened out, they went through the process of defunding it, almost firing everybody, and then going back and rehiring the ones that met up the standards. Now, yes, that's when people say defunding the police. They said, "Oh, that's what we're talking about." But to me, you got to kind of call it that we want to restructure the police. Or really, the real fight to me is that we want to get rid of the brutality and the injustice that are happening in the Black communities. Is the real strategy behind what we want. But don't just give me a tactic and say that that is going to solve the problem, or that's going to be the strategy behind it. Anyone else want to have any thoughts to say? Because that's what saying, by concentrating on fixing the process or the situation, we find our lives more productive. Not complaining against others can help our mental images to become more effective. So it helps. We need to get that right mental image. We need to get the image of how do we want our Black communities to be? How do we want our Black communities to interact with the law enforcement forces? What is our real true picture of it? And not just the tactic of saying, oh, we want to defund the police. To me, we actually want better and more effective police. And whether it comes from more money or less money, we first need to find out what is the strategy. What does it look like to have a good relationship between a policeman and a Black young man? What does that look like? And that is the strategy that we should be going towards. Anyone else have any comments or questions? No one have any comments? So let me just read the last paragraph of the article, which actually talks about Sagittarius a bit. It says the ninth tenet predominates between November the 23rd and December the 22nd. Is associated with the sign Sagittarius, the archer. In astrology, this sign is called the house of religion. It relates to judgment being used to correct or join things that have been broken. And this is talking about religion. He says, note, religion comes from the Latin word, which means to bond. So it's telling, when Sagittarius is called the house of religion, and religion means to bond things. And so when we're saying we have religion, it means how do you get people to come together, and how do you get broken things and fix them is what religion, because religion actually means to, and not just to bond them, but to rebond them, to get them back together again. And it's showing us that this sign of Sagittarius, that is this key phrase, I didn't put that in here, but the key phrase is I see, and it's the archer can actually pinpoint using that arrow to actually get the target and get the right target and hit the target it wants to hit. Is we have to look at how we look at the problems around us and actually look for the real solution. We don't want to miss the mark and then complaining against the other person or just trying to get rid of the other person often will make us miss the mark of actually finding a solution to that problem. Anyone else have any thoughts? No comments or questions? And and so go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for a wonderful lesson.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Well, thank you.
A lot of times we criticize about what's going on with other people, not saying that we need to really turn and work on ourselves.
Yes.
We need to really work on ourselves.
Yeah, all of us need that reminder as very often, because we need to, if you change yourself, and which is easier to change yourself than to change others. Because sometimes, especially when you're trying to change others and you tell them things that they can take it in the wrong way, they have to mull over it, and they have to say, why is this person attacking me? Because a lot of times, if you really want to change people, you have to show them how you're trying to give them something that's going to be having a positive effect on their life. Even I believe when we're talking about blacks in America, we I think can be a powerful force in on making America a better place with some of the philosophies we have in life and some of the ideas we can bring. And I'm saying, how do we get to actually fully express the beauty of the Black culture in America? And show that not only in the cultural things we have, but show that in our communities and around to make America a better place. We do want to make America a better place. We do want to resolve some of the problems, and we should show our value to America, not just how. And I know a lot of times we want to think about it is what America owes us, but to me, to make a nation work, the people of that nation have to be involved in that process or work. But thank you for your words. Anyone else have any comments? I saw Mother Loretta was open for a minute. While Tricia was talking, did you want to have a comment, Mother Loretta? Okay, okay, not. But also from this time, I still wanted to remember a phrase that we got from Mother a couple of weeks ago, and to remind us to repeat this daily, that I shall thank and praise God for his understanding. And Mother was always tell us to unfold like a rose. So we want to do that. Now I see Mother Loretta is unmuted again. You wanted to speak, Mother Loretta?
Yeah, I was going to say the sign. It was saying, I see. Sometimes with us, when we want to complain or have complaints, we just are focused into what we see at that moment. We're blindsided. And when you're blindsided, you won't get an understanding or see anything but what you're focused on. And that's some of the things that we have to make a change with, too. You can't always just be blindsided with one point of view or one idea. When you do that, you're not focusing and you can't hear what other people are saying. You're so caught up into that one item or that one event or that one thing that you want to do, you don't hear or see anything. And then when things don't go right, then you go complaining. But when people are trying to tell you at the time, you're not hearing because you're just focusing on what you see. And sometimes in life, we have to just not always think about what we're saying or our vision and what we think and what we see. Just open up and just, consider what other people are saying and give it a good thought. Because sometimes some things that they're saying, too, is something that you could think about that would help you in your daily lives or in lives to come. So we just have to have an open mind and see a bigger vision, not just blindsided on one particular thing.
Yes, that's so true. That is that seed, but how are you using that seed? How are you using that vision? And that's why I always think about that archer, Sagittarius being an archer, is you have to look at what you're targeting in it. And yeah, because when you are an archer, you want to make sure that you hit the mark. And to hit that mark, you have to have that correct vision. You have to worry, is the thing standing still? Is the wind blowing? Is it moving? You have to think about all of those things. What kind of target are you shooting at when you do it? In your life, you have to do the same thing. You want to get that correct vision, that correct understanding of what are you targeting, and not be so quick. That it's like someone bumps into you, and immediately you just want to turn around and smack the person because they bumped into you. Does that solve the problem? Did they bump into you? What was the reason that caused that person to bump into you? Did they do it intentionally or unintentionally? Did they do it because they stumbled? Did the person do it because they have a problem walking? What was the real problem? And if you don't take that time to see what the real problem is, then your solution is probably also going to be wrong. And this is just telling us to use your power of judgment, to use your power of discernment, use that power of your imagination, at least to come up with the right target. And when you get that right target, then let your arrow loose. But be that archer that actually picks a target, not one that just takes his bow and just keeps shooting arrows in every direction. This is not for this. This is not a process for the blind person to try to hit someone. This is a one with that archer who can see. And when I was talking about the blind, it reminded me of something silly we saw. Some comedian children were showing us on a YouTube that goes around, and it's supposed to be this blind man, and someone asks you to help take care of the blind man, and the blind man gets mad and he just started punching all around. Now, actually, this is a comedian who can see, so he's doing this flurry of punches that are just, he won't hit you because he's just fighting, but he's fighting like a blind man that doesn't know which way you really are. And that's what we have to stop doing in life. We're like these people that we're fighting a target and we're just punching like blind people, just punching everywhere, and not actually saying, first we need to find out where the person is. And just like that archer, look to see where that person is, and then shoot the arrow at them, at the target. We got to find the target before we can think about shooting at the target, or we're just wasting our time punching and swinging at things that we don't even know where the problem is. So thank you, Loretta, for reminding us about that. I see, to actually use your vision better. Any more words of wisdom from our audience? So I'm going to say thank you now for being with us on our call today, and know that on our website, www.spiritualguidancetemple.org, that you make donations. And I'd like to thank some of the people who have made donations on the website. We did see your donations and did send out a personal thank you, but I wanted to mention online that thank you for that. And we also received some donations to my Zelle and Cash App. I'd like to thank those who made those donations. My telephone number is 954-549-4713, and you can use Cash App or Zelle or Zelly, I don't know the right correct pronunciations, to make donations to there. And those who made contact with who told me to come by and pick up your donations. So I'd like to thank you all. And my wife was reminding me that it's about 2 weeks away, but I'll be making some Christmas baths. The bath's going to be $21 each. Let me know. Again, you can use my telephone number to text me the number of bath you use and the name of the person that the bath is for, because we do like to say a prayer for the person. Specific for each bath, I'd like to do a prayer for them specifically. Again, my telephone number is 954-549-4713. You can text that message about the bath. They're probably going to be ready about mid-month, about the 15th of the month is when I'm going to do them. The Christmas bath has some perishable things in it, one of them being milk, and so we don't like to make them too far in advance because we don't want them to have too much to kind of spoil before you use them. But yeah, let us know if you like to get a bath, and we'll find a way to make sure you get that. And I think that's it for the thank yous. I'm in the wrong direction. So for our dismissal, and just before we signed off, let me say, may the love of God illuminate your way. May the will of God direct you each day. May the truth of God all errors depart, and may the peace of God forever dwell in your heart. Amen. Amen. Amen.